Welcome to Valonia United Methodist Church's midweek devotion time. I'm Pastor Lauren, and I'm so glad you're joining us. We're in the middle of a series called At the Heart at Home, where we are learning about and exploring spiritual practices that get at the heart of our faith and that connect our hearts to God. We also are inviting you to do these spiritual practices at home. And so last week we learned about breath prayer, and if you'd like to learn more about that, you can check out our midweek devotional from last week on Facebook or YouTube. And this week we'll be talking about labyrinths. I want to remind you, if there is a spiritual practice that is especially meaningful to you, or one you want to learn more about, please let me know. I would love to talk with you about a spiritual practice, possibly have you share about that spiritual practice in a midweek devotion, or I'd love to learn about a new spiritual practice and be able to help teach the congregation that practice. So please let me know if you have something in mind. We're going to begin our time today with Psalm 25, verses 4 through 10. So I invite you to hear these words. Make your ways known to me, Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth. Teach it to me, because you are the God who saves me. I put my hope in you all day long. Lord, remember your compassion and faithful love. They are forever. But don't remember the sins of my youth or my wrongdoing. Remember me only, according to your faithful love, for the sake of your goodness, Lord. The Lord is good and does the right thing. He teaches sinners which way they should go. God guides the weak to justice, teaching them his way. All the Lord's paths are loving and faithful for those who keep his covenant laws. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I am drawn to this psalm as I think about the way we often talk about God guiding our paths or teaching us God's ways. The psalmist asks the Lord to make your ways known to me. Teach me your paths. Later saying that God guides the weak to justice and that all of the Lord's paths are loving and faithful. I love this image of God providing a path or a way for us and showing us that way. Sometimes it's hard to see the way and we ask God to show us the way. Other times we're just not paying attention maybe. The psalm, the way it is written, we hear the psalmist calling out for prayer, for help, for guidance, asking for relief from distress, for forgiveness, asking for guidance and instruction. As we hear this prayer, we are reminded of the character of God and the way we are invited into relationship with God. As we hear the psalmist asking for help and guidance and trusting that God is good, I believe that resonates in our hearts too. And we are reminded to trust in God's goodness and God's ways. God's hope is to guide us in the way of righteousness. And so we are invited to pay attention, to discern the path that God is leading us on. Sometimes it is helpful for us to find new ways to pray and meditate so that the path of God may become clear. One way that I have found that practice of getting away in solitude and taking time to meditate and discern is through labyrinths. You may not be familiar with this, or maybe you have heard of a labyrinth before and you think it's a maze, but it's not like other mazes you think of where there are many ways and many paths and that you might hit roadblocks and have to turn around. A labyrinth is a path. There's only one way in and you take the same way out. And there's no having to make decisions about which way to turn. You just follow the path, taking one step at a time. Many people have been using labyrinths for centuries. They're often found outdoors or in the floor of churches and cathedrals. The most famous one is Chartres Cathedral, where the labyrinth was constructed in the early 13th century and continues to survive to this day. It's become a place of pilgrimage for many people to come and visit. I'm going to show you some pictures throughout the rest of our time together so you can get an image of what a labyrinth might look like. I want to say again, it is a path that we follow, and so it starts with just taking one step at a time, one move at a time. And I know what you're thinking, Pastor Lauren, I can't go to anywhere exotic right now. I can't go seek out a labyrinth on my own. So towards the end of our time together, I'm going to show you a finger labyrinth, which is another way to do a labyrinth where you trace your finger along the path. And it can serve the same way that a labyrinth that we would walk would. I have found that labyrinths are a mini retreat for me, that they're a place where I am able to imagine a new reality. I'm able to step out of what's going on in my head and the world around me and pause and connect with God in a new way. Two of my favorite labyrinths are one in at Hendrix College and one in Boston. You might not know that on the campus of Hendrix College, just down the street in Conway, there is a labyrinth that a student committed to creating as a project. It is right next to the Trishman Fine Arts Building. It's where Front Street runs into Hendrix and to a circle driveway, and it's just off on some level ground with benches surrounding it. And it is a place that I have gone for solace. Oftentimes when I'm walking a labyrinth, I almost don't want the experience to end. I don't want to step back out of the labyrinth because it is such a meaningful experience for me. So I went to college at Hendrix, and so that is a great place for me to retreat to. I invite you to venture out if you're looking for a brief way to go and explore somewhere new during the pandemic. That is a safe place for you to go. My other favorite labyrinth is a labyrinth in Boston, Massachusetts. I didn't discover it till the end of my time in seminary, but it's this labyrinth with grass around it. And it's in the middle of the city, in one of the busiest parts of the city downtown near Faneuil Hall. It's in an Armenian heritage park, a memorial park dedicated to the victims of the Armenian genocide. And it is just also a place of solace for me. It's so beautiful. And to be something I love about spiritual practices and about labyrinths in particular is while you're seeking solitude and time with God, spiritual practices invite us to quiet our hearts in the midst of the chaos of life. So while things are chaotic all around us, at Hendrix there are cars driving by and birds chirping, and in Boston there's this frenzy, this energy, this chaos in the city. When I'm walking a labyrinth, I'm able to settle into what God has to tell me, able to settle into this time where I'm walking step by step with God, or where I'm meditating moment by moment with God. So I want to invite you to learn a little bit more about a way that some people walk or run their finger along a finger labyrinth. We're invited, if you want to do this spiritual practice, to try to approach it with the 3 R's for the labyrinth. And those 3 R's are release, receive, return. So when you enter a labyrinth, you're going to be walking a path to the center of the labyrinth. And so as you walk the path to the center, you're invited to release what's on your mind, to open your heart, to release the things that are weighing you down. I like to walk the labyrinth with my hands open. Once you get to the center, which the center of a labyrinth is called the center rose, where the rose symbolizes beauty and love and enlightenment. Each petal symbolizes the aspects of creation, mineral, vegetable, animal, human, of the spiritual world and the mystery of the unknown. The center of the rose is a place of rest. It's a place where you can receive what God has to share with you that day. It's time for you to continue to open yourself up to God's love and grace and discernment. And then when you're ready to leave a labyrinth, you go out the same way you got to the center, and you follow the path back out. And there you're invited to return, to leave the center when you're ready, and to return making a resolve to enter back into the world with a new understanding, with a new sense of peace or comfort. Maybe an action step for what your plans are next. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the labyrinth a little bit, that you'll practice the 3 R's by going to walk a labyrinth at Hendrix, or looking up a place where there's a labyrinth near you and seeing if it's available right now, or by using this finger labyrinth. I'll put a link to it in the details section of our post for the midweek devotion. And I invite you to print it out or just on your tablet or computer to just trace the labyrinth and spend some time in prayer. Spend some time asking God to guide you on the path of righteousness, on the ways that God would have you to go. I hope to see you again next week as we continue to learn more about spiritual practices at the heart at home. I do want to let you know about a couple things going on at the church, especially that this Sunday, July 19th, we'll have worship as usual online, and then a short Great Thanksgiving service, and then you're invited to come and receive communion. You'll drive through, and we will be gloved and masked and hand out communion for you and your family. You'll come to the back parking lot where the entrance to our worship center is and where the church van is parked. You'll just stay in your car the whole time, and we will give you communion elements. If you have questions about that or want to know more, please let me know. I'd be glad to give you some more information or bring you communion if you're unable to get out at this time. Thank you.